welcome.
Thank you. Such a pleasure.
It's my honor. Intuition, meditation.
Meditation, intuition.
Yes. Lots to unpack. It's a very important show. I'm grateful that Shaker introduced us
Yes.
to make this happen. Yeah. Liana's got a lot of good images as well as we unpack. Let's jump in. We'll start with the journey. So, what was it like growing up, and how did you become interested in what you care about today?
Mm-hmm. I think just a natural feeling of curiosity and feeling that the picture I used to see in my childhood is something like, there is something else. There should be something else, because I was raised in Moscow and people around me had pretty, I would say, limited lifestyle. Pretty similar, everybody's going on a work for 5 days, then 2 days they are drinking and hanging out, like just the similar scenario, which was for me very boring. And I really wanted to see something else. And I remember myself growing up and thinking about traveling and just to be connected with different mindsets, to see how different people live. And yeah, I was in a very strict, this like Russian environment. I was playing violin for 11 years. My parents pushed me to do that. I hated doing this. It was very strict discipline. And after school, I went to university, which is my mom asked me to do. I never wanted to do that. I just wanted to go travel. I wanted to explore. And when I had a chance to get one-way ticket to Thailand, I was like, yeah, I think that's where my journey starts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll get to this.
Yeah.
We'll get to this 2 years in Thailand. We'll get here. Initially, what you were sharing, it very deeply resonated with me that there is a culture of stamping people out as gingerbread cookies into the economic machinery to fill roles. And so everybody looks the same. Everybody has their unique contribution in a way, but the process of doing what you described with a 9 to 5 for 5 days, and then for the 2 days undergoing some sort of, as many people hypothesize, and it seems to be correct, that when people undergo such processes of intoxication, the attempt is to commune with God. And there are so many other ways of investigating one's own consciousness that lead to that feeling of communion, infinite consciousness. And we'll get to some of these spiritual perennial wisdoms. And so it's funny that the way that the economic machinery works is that you have the billions of people daily that are veiling themselves from the true nature of consciousness by focusing on an external, objective pursuit of money and materialism. So that seems to be a very common thing, not only as you described in Russia, but in the United States, in the Middle East, in Europe, in China, in Asia. So it's becoming more of a common fetish of modernity, is rather than tuning inward for what is the role of my consciousness, what is the role of reality at large, there is sort of a perpetual veiling that occurs of consciousness in some sort of 9-to-5 economic gears in a machine. So that was the first thing that really resonated with me. And I'm glad that you, even through your parental pressure of 11 years playing violin, and even through your parental pressure of going to university, even through that, you still put the pieces together to get to Thailand. That's huge. Because that one first foundational moment is what opens up the doors of perception, of consciousness, to higher states of awareness, to what is possible outside of the machine. So good for you for doing that. How did you piece together the finances to send yourself to Thailand on that one-way ticket?
Mm-hmm. So I was working on a place. I was actually working as a manager. Yeah, so very machine mechanic work, you know. And I collected some money, and I've met my future husband at the time, who was already kind of out of the system, you know. And we just got high one night. I was smoking at the time, and I started to painting at that moment. I think I had my first artworks, and we were talking, and that was this moment of deep conversations when he told me, like, why are you working in office? Like, look at your look at your artworks. Why are you working in office? Yeah. And I was honest, and I just told him, because I'm scared. I need money. And he was like, you shouldn't do that anymore. And this night I made this, you need to make this paper, you know, when you say that, like, I'm leaving. Yep. So I collected the rest of my money. He helped me with the part for the tickets. Yep. And yeah, we just left there. And we left with a few of other friends who basically as well didn't really had planned. We all were, you know, I was artist who's just starting to go into this art and creativity, and other friends of mine, they already was on the creative path. And yeah, we didn't have a plan. We just was like, you know, we'll go and see what's going to happen. And there was a moment when money finished. We didn't have money to go back. We were like eating rice, you know, and picking coconuts from palms for a few months. Yeah. And local people actually help us a lot. They literally adopted us for a few months. Wow. And I got pregnant in Thailand at this moment. And my husband, he left to Russia. I mean, he was lucky enough. He always, he never betrayed himself in a way of, he always was a musician, and he still work as a musician now, and sometimes have really hard times, you know, but he just like, you know, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm great at. I'm not going to do, you know, delivery work or something like that. Yeah. And he left to Russia because he was already known out there, and I stayed in Thailand because I didn't want to go back in Russia. Yeah. And I planned to give birth of my child in Thailand first. And my mom, she called me, and she's in traditional medicine. And she called me and said that, oh, I'm worried about you. You're alone, pregnant in a different country. Please come back. be a normal person.
Yeah.
I will find a hospital for you.
Yeah.
And I thought that, again, I did it for her. I came back in Russia. And I think, that's where I would go for intuition and connection to your higher self and to bigger, let's say, consciousness.
Yes.
I came back to Russia. It was 6 months of my pregnancy. And I was in the traffic, in a taxi, and something happened where it was the first time where I didn't lose the sense of my body and who I am. I knew who I am. I mean, like as Liana, I'm in Moscow, okay, and all these things. But at the same time, there was another sense, which I can sense through myself and which connects me and everything around.
Yes.
And this space, if I would say that this space was talking with me, that would be wrong, because you just read the message. It's not a sound, it's not a picture, but the message. Yeah. And the message was really clear. You have to go and give birth of your child to India. Yeah. And I had no doubt that this is what I have to do. At this same moment, I Googled the offices which gives visas.
Same moment. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And I called there, figure out what I should do to get the tickets. And I called to my mom first and said, Mom, I'm leaving in 2 weeks to India. I never been there before. And I remember that was the first moment when she really actually accepted me. I think my craziness, Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I think that was for her, okay, I can't change her, because all this time she tried to
form
because you. Of she was sure, she was scared, she was worried, and that was from her perspective.
Wow, she let go.
Yeah.
That moment, she let go.
And she was like, you know what? I support you. I support whatever decision you're making. I mean, my husband was freaking out for a little bit because it was close to New Year time. So I gave birth to my baby in December, and because he's a musician, he has most of his work is on this celebration like New Year. He has all this concert, and he said, I can't go with you. Yeah. And I said, I don't care. I just go alone. Yeah.
Wow. How beautiful it is that your husband at the time still has stayed true to his musical career. Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. So you were painting at the same time that he was doing music, mm-hmm. and that there was this driving force within both of you to escape away from that machinery and go to Thailand at the time. And you even brought friends with you mm-hmm. as well, mm-hmm. which is super interesting. So there's a good amount of people that are trying to figure out what exists outside of that economic machinery. And then it's also super interesting that the classical example of a parent who loves us, who wants the best for us, that aims to expose us to all these different fields and opportunities and things like that, but in a sense struggles with that last little bit of realizing that my child came through me into the world, and my child is their sovereign being to pursue what they believe is their artistic purpose, their gifts on the planet. And so it's so unique that I love how much of a moment it sounds like it was for your mom, who as soon as you came into this, whatever that space is, where we have these feelings of interconnection to what can be said is all that is, some sort of field that we are connected to, where the message comes in, it's clear, and that's profound. It's as though there's a higher purpose for you, because you are no longer going to birth your child in the same process that you grew up in Moscow in Russia, but instead it's going to be wildly different in a completely different spiritual terrain in India. And so that single moment was not only profound for you, it was profound for your mom, profound for your husband, but also profound for your daughter. Really trajectory altering intuitive lightning bolt that hit. And I think that's a very fascinating unpacking of that portion of your journey. So you ended up going, just following the flow.
I wanted to add to what you just said,
Yes.
that from my experience, when you have this deeper connection with yourself, and it can be something, this voice from within you, it can be something really crazy, but I believe that every single being in the universe knows that this is truth and can separate it. And when you follow in this truth impulse, as you said, people around you are affected by this light and truth as well. They can feel it. Sometimes they can't even rationalize it, but they feel it, and you can see the reaction from them as well.
Yeah. We'll explore the feeling of all 8 billion people knowing that, what you're describing, and then having that be a compass of sorts in their trajectory, and that when they follow along that, then there is a butterfly effect of people that are altered by those trajectory paths that are taken, because that's very clear on mine. It's very clear on many of the other guests that we've had on the program, is those moments where the family, the friends, the community, the social fabric itself basically takes a big and that's when you break through, and it's like jumping through a portal in, yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's jumping through a portal. It's a really important analogy, because every time that we jump through one of those portals, what happens is our consciousness evolves to higher levels, and there's no going back. And we bring other people with us. And if we don't go through the portal, the knock usually comes again at some point later. So. Yeah. Where along the path of the calling to give birth to your child in India, did it begin the process of, where do I go in India? How do I figure out where to go, where to give birth? How do I surrender myself to that flow? Yeah.
We was talking about that earlier, that from my early childhood, I think that one thing I've noticed about myself, I had less fear than my surroundings for the new experiences. And one of the most,
Yes.
and still the most scary thing for me, is an ordinary, boring life. Sorry.
So good.
For me, it was just, I know that I will learn something. I know that it will be amazing. I was already interested in Hinduism. I knew that it will be it will be interesting. For sure it will be interesting.
You can guarantee that it will be really interesting,
Yes,
really novel. Shatter through fear into new experiences that bring lots of wisdom and insight.
So I didn't have any plan. I didn't have a plan. I have a trust. I have trust to my intuitive insight. And I just knew something about Goa. I knew that this is friendly, hippie place, and I thought that people can give birth to kids there, whatever they want under the tree, I was just like, perfect, sounds like me. And I went on a plane, and I'm sitting, like I'm on my seat, right? And I see there is a pregnant girl going like towards me. And she looked at me and she's like, "Oh, I know you. You're Andrea's wife." So because my husband at the time, he was pretty famous musician, and she's like, "Oh, I'm like, we're friends. Where are you going? Do you know like where are you going?" And I said, "No, I never been in India. I guess I'll figure it out there."
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, I'm flying there with my mom and my brother, and we have a place to stay. My friend will let us stay, and if you want, you can stay with us." And I said, "Whew, perfect."
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
And there's someone on the plane that knows Andreas and that says, "We have a place for you."
Yes, yes.
Boom.
And I got there. I stayed with them at their friend's place. During this time, I was trying to find a place where I can give birth to a child. And as I told you, I was sure that people there are so open-minded. It's known hippie place.
Yep.
And I was sure you just can literally give birth to your child at home, and that's how I wanted to do. I didn't want to go to any hospital, being around random people. I could feel that at this moment you have to be specially connected with yourself and with the flow, and nobody, no random people has to affect you at this moment. It's
profound.
Like exactly.
For how old were you at the time?
21.
You were 21 and you were recognizing that you needed to be in a space that was conducive for the very, very profound divine spiritual process of childbirth. That's very wise for 21 to know that. Yeah.
And I found a place to stay. I paid for 3 months, I think, in advance for the rent. And right after I pay, and it was, in India, they sometimes the owners, they will stay on the first floor and they will give for rent the second floor. That's how it was with me. And the day after I gave the money, the owner of the house came up to me and asked where I'm going to give birth to a child. Yeah. And I said, right here.
Yeah. In your second floor of your house.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're welcome, by the way. It'll make the energy of your house much better. Trust me. And
she didn't agree with me about this thing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
She said, "No way."
Wow, yeah.
And she explained it it was so funny, to see this type of limitations, because she said, "Oh, we're Brahmin family," which is like a highest caste.
Yeah.
We're Brahmin family, and to give birth to a child, it's she explained to me that the process is something dirty and they can have it at home. And you know, that
Whoa.
was that was one of the thing when I was thinking that the Hinduism is so
Enlightened.
deep and so enlightened, and how people can limit it, you know, and
Yeah.
being a Brahmins and
Yes.
make rituals every day
Yes, yes.
and still use
Yes.
this type of perception.
Yes, yes.
Anyways, I was okay with that. I said, okay, I will try to look for another place and just accept it and try to go around. And I'm finding another place, absolutely new house. The first question I ask to owner is, can I give birth to a child?
That's the first question now. Yeah,
Yeah. He said, okay, yeah, you can do that. So I'm finding a place and packing my stuff. So I remember I pack my last box, you know, and I feel that it started.
Oh.
Yeah, at this like old place, you know, where I can give birth to
at
a
the
child.
old place. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
At the old place, and I call to the girl I know. I knew her from Thailand. We've met in Thailand, and I knew that she was in Goa. And I called her and I said, "Hey, I think I'm giving birth right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Can you come?" And she
Yeah.
came to my place at night.
Wow.
Yes, and she brought another woman who is not traditional. I don't know how would you call the woman who help to give birth.
Yeah, the delivery nurse or
Yeah, not the traditional one. She was more suggesting the ways, the posture you can do, how you can breathe.
She was alternative
Yeah,
practitioner.
exactly.
She was giving you posture and breath.
I didn't use it though. I didn't
okay.
use it though.
Okay.
So I think that's
Interesting.
also very important experience about this, you know, choose between love and fear, and just, you know, being able to go through fear.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what you said, you know, is important in the example of me flying to Thailand.
Yes.
And I remember when the process starts, and that's the moment where you really feel you can't control it. This is a process which happening through you.
Yeah.
And there is two choices. You either let it happen through you and stay totally open,
Yeah.
or either you try to fit it in your boxes,
Yeah.
and that's where the wrong, how to say, that's where suffering starts. Let's say,
Yeah.
you know.
Whoa.
And I remember it on just my sensations in my body, where I said to myself, I'm letting this flow go through me. And I don't remember myself. I was this process. And
Yes. That's right. That's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
and this woman, she was suggesting me, she was like, oh, do you want me to make a massage for you, or do you want to try this? And I was like, no, I know what to do. I just know what to do. And I did super weird postures, super weird sounds, you know?
Yeah.
And I just knew what to do. And I'm
Yes.
so happy that I wasn't brainwashed at the moment, because before, as I said, I was in Thailand. And most of the times, when I came back in Russia, I was there for maybe a couple weeks. And before there, I just stayed alone in Thailand, in jungles, playing didgeridoo, singing. You know, nobody's around who will tell me, you know, you have to read this book and to learn how to breathe right. Man,
Yeah.
there are so many women did it before me. I know that if I'm connected with myself, you know?
Yeah.
And that was one of the most amazing experience. That was very painful,
Yeah.
but at the same time, that was divine, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's so interesting how you took the reins of sort of being in a state of such flow where you just trust the process, and that you will move strangely or make strange noise, and you will go through something that is extremely painful and divine, and you birth your daughter into the world.
Yes. Yes.
This is a very important experience in people's lives. Very, very, very important. So what now, do you feel relief? You feel divine connection to your child? Walk us through that. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to explain the sacred moment which just happened between us in the kitchen, because there was, in this house I stayed, everything was amazing, but there was one thing. There was a dog which the owners didn't feed by the purpose, because they kept some type of medicine in their house and they were scared that somebody will rob them, right? And they wouldn't feed a dog. So she was very, very nervous all the time. You know how if you don't feed animal, it becomes very nervous and would react on every sound, every little movement. So the only thing which was distracting me was this dog. She was barking all the time, and usually India is full of beautiful sounds of birds. Cows would come, and monkeys, and there was none of it around our house because of this dog.
Yep.
And I was really I was nervous that when I will give birth baby, she will wake her up. And at the night when I gave birth to Maya, this dog, I still don't know how, but she ran away. She was on a huge metallic chain and she never came back.
Somehow broke a metallic chain.
I have no idea how it's happened, but the thing is, at the moment when I gave birth to Maya, the first thing I've heard, there was 2 cows which came to our house, and I was like, wow, it's so unfamiliar sounds out here, and the birds were flying and the monkeys was jumping all around. And then we figured that the dog has run away. That's why it happened.
And I wonder what the energetic trigger is for your process of childbirth and the dog breaking away from its chain and vacating the premises so that there is space for the birth and the cows and the birds and the more natural sort of process of a less stressed creature in that sense. And maybe the dog actually, to survive, needed to break away in order for it to get food. So again, one of those extremely sacred, divine moments where that happened, and it was just a perfect birthing scenario. Then it became, and so was that then relief and divinity holding Maya? What was that like?
I think the most interesting experience for me at the moment was to feel that there is different soul, different character, different person. Because when she was inside of me, I felt like I'm the one. And when I seen her first time, and I told you this story about names, I had the names in my mind.
Oh my God, it became 2.
I want to give her, and it became 2.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely incredible and switched my perception in the whole world, because the time started to flow differently. I started to feel life in a different way, just how the plants are growing, how one produce another, all the cycles of life. I didn't really pay attention to that before.
Yes.
And when she was born, it just happened with me. I was just, for a year, I think I kind of was living in a psychedelic trip where I literally could feel this living space around me, how everything is alive,
That's right. Wow. Oh, wow. That's quite a profound way to describe the process of being a pregnant mother and having the child inside that is of one with you. And then as the child is birthed into the world, it becomes so evident that it is now two. It is now its own unique soul. And yeah. Wow. And it's no surprise at all that tapped you into a straight you can say trance. You were in a year-long, like you described, psychedelic experience, and that's a higher level of consciousness, is one that truly is that tapped into its environment at such a level where it is really connecting to even the growth of the plants, the growth of the life of the animals, just that style of experience tapped in at that higher degree, being, triggered by that divine childbirth, it's super important. It's really awakening. It's really describes the interconnection. I'm quite obsessed on the program with sharing with people that they take 20,000 inhales every single day, and that every one of those inhales comes from the photosynthesis of phytoplankton in trees. And to truly realize that style of cyclical interconnectedness on the planet is profoundly life-changing, but we brush over it like it's nothing.
How interesting in this that actually just few questions can take you to the nature of mind, to compassion and love, and how everything is connected, just from thinking how this food got to your plate, what was before, right? Just few steps.
Yes. What you just described is a process that, if consciousness is truly dedicated to truth, truly dedicated to awakening, truly dedicated to enlightenment, it will undergo this dedicated process that you speak of, where it inquires into the truth of its own existence at that level. And it really sometimes it requires just some simple inquiries about these breaths of air, these bites of food. It's just those simple inquiries, and they lead to states that are so profoundly shifting that everything that you do after that is gold. Everything. So that means that you act from a state of such high morals, ethics, and acting from that state, butterfly affects more and more consciousness to undergo the process of investigating its own nature and reality. You act as a channel for the butterfly effect of more and more consciousness to inquire about its own self and its own nature. So I love this. I love how much we're unpacking this in its surgical nuance. It's beautiful. It's like a flower. I love that analogy. It's like every guest on the show is their own unique flower essence, and you're taking us down an incredible journey. So let's go into that first year with Maya and connecting to this, what you describe as a psychedelic first year of post childbirth.
That was interesting. That's the thing I want to talk about. Talking about this year, I think I was also in a type of sphere, like energetic sphere of my child, of her, still super extremely open cosmic consciousness, and I literally could feel it as, as like a field around me, around her. And I was not really got into connection with other people. I felt like I was more protecting her, but I was able to observe what's happening around me. And I feel that it's such a blessing that I came to India to give her birth, because there are so many different esoterical and spiritual people around who was, I don't know, trying to raise their kundalini, and just like do different practices. And the first year, actually, I was with my child, totally connected with her in this, how I would say, cocoon.
Yeah, like a cocoon.
The cocoon, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was observing how many people are going crazy, and I've just seen so many people who I think claiming to be spiritual from a wrong motivation.
Yeah.
And especially in Goa, in India, it's pretty easy life. Most of the people, they, let's say, rent their place in Russia, which they own, and they just like live very easily. And I just seen that many people were really unbalanced, like as I was talking about you, that at some point I would have very different and opposite environment where there will be materialistic businessmen who believe only in material world.
Yep.
And all these hippies.
Yep.
And as I said, I'm really happy that I got there to give birth to my child. So I wasn't able to put myself to go through all this experience, but I was just noticing that they missing something,
Yeah.
They doing all these practices, but they can't deal with normal life,
Yes.
And
the anchoring of the conscious ascent that is attained in the modern social fabric.
Mm-hmm.
That is a critical perennial spiritual wisdom, is to anchor these ascents in consciousness in the center of the social fabric of the metro.
And I feel like, any spiritual practice is first about discipline, and as you said, I just made a commitment with myself to do the podcast every day, and I'm doing it 700 days. I have 700 podcasts, and if you truly developed your spiritual practice, you will be able to figure things out here.
Yes. Yeah, I want to say that you gave this part of what you were saying that was, again, so insightful. You talk about this. There's two things here. One of them is that you have this sort of cocoon that you describe for you and Maya, and in that cocoon you have these experiences that, to me, what my interpretation of it is something like a mother being extremely aware of their child's inputs, of what their child is taking in. And so there's a huge transition from their child taking in what we were talking about is available in the economic machinery of a place like Moscow or maybe New York or whatever. Completely different in terms especially of the amount of people in the economic machine versus, as you use the word, hippie, or people pursuing maybe a spiritual path or something. In like Manhattan, you're like really skewed scales, super skewed. And in India, it may be a little bit more balanced. There may be a lot more people pursuing some sort of spiritual path and a lot less people that are doing economic machinery, materialism, solely focused practice.
Right. But what I'm trying to say is, especially in this state where you have just a newborn child,
exactly,
you can feel the truth with your body and you can feel the intentions of people. And there is an intention of spiritual development,
yes,
which goes through fear.
Yes.
And there is cover of like, oh, I'm spiritually developing, but actually you're just lazy. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Okay.
And going into also, it's like a lot of...
Yes. Yes. Okay. Let me hit this back because this is a very important point if I understood correctly. So one of the important realizations of what is modern people is to do things like realize that materialism is not only it, there is a spiritual path that is interesting where I investigate my consciousness and the nature of reality. And so there's that. And then for the spiritual people on the very spiritual path is to, rather than what may be sometimes what is called a spiritual bypassing, where there is some sort of a process of, I am on the spiritual path and there's actually no work that's being done. It's more of a saying something about it. Or there's, even if they do undergo the process of being on the spiritual path, there is no intention to anchor any of the things that are learned in the world, in the way of actually helping people and helping the world. And so there's both sides that have their, in a sense, you could say, perverse incentives or their dirty bathwater. And then there's this beautiful baby in both of them, as we say in Chapter 7 of the sorting algorithm in high-level perception, where you take the baby out of the bathwater of the physicalists and you take the baby out of the bathwater of the spiritualists and you bring them together into one, and then you have a truly divine reality.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And there's a lot of dirty bathwater in both of them as well. So there's examples, quick, where you have I've used this example before, it's a very sensitive example, is that we have a planetary, truly an emergency, but very much so brushed off like it is not, where the economic machinery is creating such intense pressures on countries like Brazil and the Congo to go ahead and destroy their rainforests and their biodiversity and those trees that sequester 30% of the carbon that is in the atmosphere and contribute to 30% of the O2 that we inhale. And those perverse incentives of the economic machinery are making it so that people think in short-term gratification of taking themselves further out of the poverty because they want more of the physical benefits of meeting those basic needs and things like that. But that we should have the foresight, we should think like the 7th generation indigenous principle that very clearly knows that it is a bad idea to mortgage our future for the short-term gains of this moment of chopping down those rainforests. So, and the true sort of one that knows is one that knows the synthesis of science and spirituality, because they can actually speak about the forests from a perspective that is grounded both in spiritual insight of being in awe at the divine of the rainforest and the biodiversity and the love that is there, but it's also grounded in the science where they can actually explain on a scientific level about the photosynthesis and the oxygen we inhale, and they can explain on a biodiversity level regarding what the beautiful things are that we can actually leverage from the creatures that are in those environments and gain them as biological insights in the way we try and augment ourselves. And also they understand from an economic perspective how to shift markets away from short-term consumption and towards the 7th generation indigenous principle. This is the kind of stuff that I preach on the program. So
I love that. That's interesting because I gave this explanation of the tree for kids, for younger kids, to teach them meditation. Yeah. So they imagine themselves as a tree, right, with the root going down and with the top trying to touch the sky, you know, and feeling the core within them.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Ooh. And I have to tell about India. I kind of started very, from the tough experience.
Yes.
For sure, India is the heart-opening place, but there is also, like, we started to talk about psychedelics a little bit, and from what I said about people who was like going crazy a little bit and where I found this disbalance, I have this really beautiful quote from one Russian musician. He said that only person who have a higher education can take up psychedelics. That means that if you have an inner structure, if you can structure this experience, you can go there. But if you don't have a right motivation, if you don't have structure, you can just lose yourself, let's say.
Sure.
And I think that's where I started to learn also about Buddhism, because I loved the structure of Buddhism.
Yep.
And I think I would say that how you said about transformation and seeing how we develop like on two opposite sides.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That the same thing about transformation, like which I found in Goa. I've seen at first not really pleasant things, which took me to Buddhist teachings and not to really go into experience, but being able to explain and to learn how it works,
It was really nice when you were beginning to describe the ways that you teach meditation, mindfulness to children.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to being able to unpack that. We have so many things.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where I should go. Remember in our plan, know.
Yeah. Well, maybe continued space where you unpack for us both your interest in the Buddhism that was occurring around you, but also the continued process of raising your daughter kind of happening simultaneously, figuring out what was happening there.
Okay, you made this connection between my daughter and learning Buddhism, and I just remembered this very interesting insight, and it goes to understanding the nature of mind, which I want to bring up.
Please.
I think about the first Vipassana experience.
Yeah.
That was the first time when I was able to, my daughter, she was 3 years old, and I was able to leave her with my mom in Russia. So we spent the season in Goa, and then I came back in Russia, and I was already introduced in Tibetan Buddhism, but and there is a different traditions in Buddhism, and like according to Buddhist philosophy, you should rather pick one path and follow it than try many. But I'm different type of person.
Just for a moment to be on that point, because it's a very important point. There's a balance that is struck between what is called, and this is what Dustin DePerna taught me, a very incredible spiritual teacher, that be careful chasing two rabbits because you won't catch either.
Oh, wow. Yes.
And then there's another one that goes, when you dig all the way, make sure you hit water. And so be careful with digging, stopping, digging, stopping, digging, stopping, digging, stopping. Dig all the way until you hit water. And so it's a balance, I would say, because the sampling is what also enables profound connections, and that those connections are what lead people to the perennial spiritual philosophies and wisdoms. And so it makes it a lot more easy to coexist harmoniously as a planet once we've made these perennial spiritual connections. And if we're digging just to one water and we think, I have the gold, my gold is best, I know truth, and we haven't sampled, this is where problem can occur. So it's balance. That's my small 2 cents on that. Yes. Yes.
I like that. I asked my Tibetan teacher if I can go to Vipassana, because Vipassana is a different tradition from Tibetan Buddhism. It was Goenka's Vipassana. And
Esan Goenka, start again. I love him.
I love him
so much. Great story. Yeah. Continue.
And my teacher said, yes, it will help you with your practice. And I left my daughter with my mom.
Interesting. So your Tibetan teacher said that yes, it will help you with your practice. That's a very important insight that you just shared with us, because sometimes the teachers of different spiritual traditions will, in a sense, they will shit on other spiritual traditions. And so it's actually really nice that was your experience, because I've had that, and I've also had other experiences where spiritual teachers have shat on other traditions. And so, which is very interesting, because then you wonder, like, so much of your teaching is so beautiful, but why do you take a shit on someone else's spiritual tradition? So anyway, okay.
I think it's one of the criteria, at least it was for me, because I always wanted to learn something above ordinary human experience, which is separate and find dualities and everything.
Yeah.
And my teacher, precious Garchen Rinpoche, I'll talk about it also. He is just a pure compassion, pure love, and the always what he's saying. He said, when you take refuge, which is a traditional ritual in Buddhism, he said it doesn't mean that you can't go to church, that you can't try different traditions. That means that there is a core principle is love and compassion.
Beautiful.
Until you see it everywhere, till you find one in a different,
Yes.
you're on the right path, you know.
Yes. So you gave Maya to your mother, so that enabled you to go to the Vipassana.
To the Vipassana,
Okay.
which is 10 days
Yes.
practice.
No talking, silent, no speaking, no eye contact with
No
other
eye
people.
contact.
Yeah.
No
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 technology,
distractions. No distractions at all.
distractions. Multiple hours per day of practice from the sitting in the
4
meditation
to
hall.
9, I think.
Yeah. From sitting in the meditation hall all the way to being alone in an individual cell, dark cell, alone. And please. Yes.
I get there, and they took, when you go to Vipassana in India, I don't know if they do it around the world, but in India they're pretty strict, so they take away your phone to make sure that
Yes.
they take away your phone, your IDs,
Yep.
basically everything what
Everything.
you have. You just, you just go there.
Strict here
And
as well.
I remember I'm in a line to give away my stuff, and I see the text, like the last thing I've seen before to go to
wow.
Vipassana
Yeah.
was a text from my mom, and she was asking me to send her my signature for the surgery for my daughter, because she had some problem with her teeth, so they had to make her fall asleep to make the surgery. So I had to send the my signature to
Yeah.
let them do that. So can you imagine, you go to retreat, you know,
Yeah.
you go to
Yeah.
meditate, and this is a
The very
Literally.
last thing.
last thing you see. And I'm sending this signature, and I think there is a 4th day of Vipassana, and the biggest struggle of the practice is pain in your body, because you're sitting all the time. And even I was already practicing yoga, and my body is pretty healthy. I had very bad back pain, and just, my left side would go numb all the time. And from the 3rd day on Vipassana practice, it starts the committed, I think, 1.5 hour practice, where you make a commitment for 90 minutes, not move at all. Because like the movement is something what helps you, not suffer a lot when you move, and a little bit stretch during the practice. And here you make this commitment and do this practice few times in a day. And I remember I said to myself, okay, I'm going to do that. And I was sitting this hour, and the pain was so bad. I could feel that I thought that I will fall, just will lose my mind and will totally turn off and fall. And I think at the moment of highest point of pain, my mind, and I just started to think about Maya. Like, how is my daughter? What's going on with her right now? What's going on with surgery? And at this moment, I figured when my mind was there, I didn't feel pain. And it just like in a second was transformed to a bliss. And I was able to sit with no movement by the end of the retreat. That was one of the experience of the mind, how our mind creates the reality, how our mind cling to the pain or to the pleasure.
Yep.
And, all of a sudden, like it goes somewhere else, and this not exist anymore.
Yeah. That's a very important insight. we, from a neuroscientific perspective, we talk about this as excessive rumination in the default mode network. So it's a excessive, compulsive rewind and replay over and over again of the same loops activating the same neural circuitry. And what you're doing is you're causing yourself a tremendous amount of suffering. And so in this case with Vipassana, what happens is you have it's a big deal. You have to sit in meditation for 60 straight minutes. Mine was 60. And this is no movement. You can't move. And so if you're trying to adjust your legs, or if you feel pain in your back, or the pain is the number one excuse that the consciousness goes towards. It's the number one excuse. The monkey mind is usually, most people figure out how to quiet the monkey mind at least enough to where the pain becomes the number one thing. So people figure out that within 3 seconds of observing my respiration, my mind has wandered off to my job, my work, my family, my friends, the musical songs that I like, my childhood, my interest in my romantic partner, any story runs to that story, and it stays in that story. And it's insane that it stays in that story for 30 or 60 seconds before you realize that, wasn't I just observing my respiration? And so that's the first moment for people, usually, of waking up. Because they realize how insanely programmed they are in their inability to even focus on their respiration for more than 3 seconds before that monkey mind runs away and is excessively ruminating in some stories. And so that's usually the okay, so now I'm gonna focus on my respiration for 5 seconds, and then it turns to 10 seconds and 20 seconds and 30 seconds and then a minute, and finally you hit a minute of being able to hold on to your own focused spotlight of conscious awareness and attention on your respiration. And then imagine trying to bring that up to 60 minutes. So then usually the top thing that comes is that, oh, my back, my knees, my etc. And so it's a very important realization that you had, that when the awareness goes to focus in on some sort of lower back pain or knee pain, that even something like the trigger of thinking about Maya as she enters into her surgery for her tooth is something that can distract away from the pain, and then realize that there was just an aversion to the actual pain that was occurring.
Like you're suffering about suffering. You're not actually experience pain.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. That's a really profound realization. Excellent. Okay, so you said that was only like the first kind of big one. Did you? Yeah, okay. And this was this day 4, you said?
I think it was day 4. When does commitment meditation start? On the third, on the fourth day, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because before the Vipassana, I got to meet Dalai Lama, and that was my first big teachings. And he gave teachings to monks in Dharamsala in his residency. And there is a different type of teachings he will give to, to Western students and to monks. And I was able to go to these teachings, and he explained this traditional Tibetan meditation of Avalokiteshvara, where I was thinking it's like, is it a joke? Because you have to imagine at the same time so many things. He wouldn't continue to add things. He would say, okay, you're on the top of your head there is Buddha Vairocana. Move from the left to the right. Around it there is a mantra goes in one direction, there is another one in a different direction, and around you there is few mantras.
Wow.
And normal Tibetan monks, they keep it in their mind, and they are able to do that.
Yes.
That's about, what's happening after you're able to keep your focus for 1 hour.
That's right. Yeah. Then you get thrown into some advanced Dalai Lama practices. Wow. And so that's really interesting. Did you have a picture of that experience too? I think you said, did you have that?
I have a picture of my refuge with my Garchen Rinpoche.
Is that
no,
one,
this
right?
is another Rinpoche. No,
Not
go
this
down.
one?
No,
Okay.
not this one.
Is it another Rinpoche? Yeah, that's funny. This one in the
The black and white
down
picture.
here?
Mm-hmm.
or the one right here on the left or on the right?
They're
both
both
the
from
same?
the same event.
Okay, cool. So we'll show this one to you guys.
Yeah, this is a refuge. That's very interesting and important moment of my life. And I think we can go here to transformation. Can I start to talk about that?
Yes, coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. All right. So which, one more time, which Rinpoche was it?
Garchen Rinpoche.
This is Garchen Rinpoche.
Yeah, this is on
Okay.
a picture. This is Garchen Rinpoche. This is my core precious teacher. I started to talk about him a little bit in the way of he's a pure compassion. You have another picture of him, if you can.
Yeah.
Up, yeah, this
This
one and the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, it is actually in Arizona right before the corona hits, because he has a center in Arizona.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that by chance with some of the leaders that are studying consciousness in Arizona? Does he collaborate with them?
I'm pretty sure he does. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know exactly, but he's very open, if
Okay,
somebody
cool.
would ask him to do that. So
Interesting.
might be.
Because we have some friends in Arizona that are at the edge of consciousness, and they work with practitioners from the East. And it would be interesting if he's not already doing that, to potentially link them up. So that's something for us to explore. Okay. So this is you about a year ago or so.
This is about a little more than more than year ago, and I just wanted to go through. You train your mind to focus, and then you train your mind to be able to stay focused on love and compassion. And my first meeting with Rinpoche was actually in Russia. He gave, and that was one of these magical moments, and it connected with my mom too. That's very interesting. I had this little necklace of little Buddha, which fell off, and I couldn't find it, and I really loved it. And I remember I was at my mom's place in Russia, and I was going through the Facebook, and I've seen the event that Rinpoche is coming. And at this moment, my mom, she came to me and she's like, "Oh, I found your Buddha." And she gave it to me, and this is, this moment of...
Yeah.
And
you found the event at the same time that your mom found the Buddha necklace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are so beautiful. It's art. I love it.
And sure, it's like with the tickets to India, I was thinking I have to go there. And as I said, at this moment, I was staying for a few days at my parents' house. And my childhood was pretty tough. I wasn't growing up with my dad. I don't know my dad, but I had my stepdad who was drinking all my childhood and, acting on the drunk on the drunk behavior. Can I say that, right?
Yeah, yes.
And it was very painful, and I remember already being on a spiritual path and intuitively and rationally understand the importance of developing love and connection to everyone.
Yeah.
I let myself hate my stepdad because I was thinking that he deserved it, and I don't even want to work through that with him.
Wow.
I just let myself, hate him. That's it. And at this moment, I stay at my parents' house and still have these complicated relationships with my dad. I was visiting Moscow, and I had to stay with them. And I was going to see Rinpoche, and he gave this open lecture where he said very simple things, very, very simple things about, that you should be more loving, more compassionate. And I was kind of a little bored on this lecture, and I was thinking that, I've heard it so many times. If he's going to give some special techniques, the school Tibetan Lama, and he didn't say anything. And then all of a sudden, he's like, I'm going to give a refuge, and refuge is a traditional ritual in Tibetan Buddhism where you take refuge in a Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, which the core thing means that you're not seeking anymore happiness externally.
Yeah.
You only rely on your inner Buddha. So you take in refuge in a Buddha, which is your own mind.
Yes.
In a Dharma, the path, the meditation path, and you believe that there is a way which will take you to this state of mind. And the Sangha is a community of like-minded people for the moments when you're sometimes getting lost and starting to think, this person, person has hurt me, or he's not cool. They will help you to bring your focus within you.
Yep.
And he gave the refuge. Technically, they cut a little piece of your hair.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's a ritual.
Yeah, I was wondering after I started to ask people about what's happening with the hair after, because he's collecting it all in a little bag, and they said that they send it to Tibetan monastery, and the monks is praying for few months, I think, for a few months or few weeks, I don't remember exactly, on this hair, and sending intentions, sending a good intentions.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was there with my friends who was already practicing Tibetan Buddhism, and I really trust them, and I tried to ask them before, what does that mean, the refuge? And they explained to me briefly, and they just said, this is a great Lama, you should go and do it, you won't regret it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I did this refuge ritual. Next day, I'm coming back to my parents' place. And when I was a child, that was a same situation, which was happen over and over. My stepdad, he would get drunk, and he would sit somewhere where I am, and he would sit like that, and looking at me and waiting for a moment to start drama, and then.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm aware of this archetype.
And the same situation, I remember it so clearly. I'm staying in the kitchen cooking rice, and he's sitting in the kitchen drunk, looking at me really angry, trying to find this moment where he can start argument. And all of a sudden I'm finding myself again at this space where I know who I am. I see my emotions. I see his emotions.
That's right.
But through this, through me, through him, through everything, there is another consciousness, which is a love and compassion, and
That's
which
right.
go through all the bullshit.
That's right.
And it's just like everywhere.
Perfect.
And I'm at this state, and I'm aware of the situation, and I don't know for how long it was, but there was so many insights there.
Yes.
The first thing is I knew that everything what happened between us and that he hurt me during all my childhood, that's supposed to happen this way.
Yes.
I just had this feeling,
that's
you
right.
know, of
That's
like
right.
explanation. There is a lot of explanation of
Yeah.
karma, but to have this experience, it's, you know, very, very
right.
different.
That's right.
And I just felt so much love. And the only thing I wanted to say sorry. And can you imagine? It's all
Yeah.
happening like in my head,
Yeah.
basically, in my mind. And for a few seconds, and I turned my head on him, and he's standing up, coming to me, start to hug me,
That's right.
start to cry,
That's right.
and say, I'm sorry, I love you, I'm sorry, I love you, and we both cry. And my mom passing by is like, what the
What's
going on out here?
Yeah.
You know? And the thing is,
You ended some very serious trauma and misery and suffering in your lineage. And in his, that whole sphere, you ended that. We end it when we do the work that you did.
I knew that it's connected with Rinpoche. I knew that there was a connection with me meeting a Rinpoche. I clearly knew that
Yes.
connection with his consciousness,
That's
with
right.
his loving compassion
Yes.
consciousness,
Yes.
made me able to see this
That's right.
space, you
That's
know,
right.
this unlimited space of love and compassion.
Yes.
And I was like, man, I wanna learn it. Like, I wanna know how does it work? And I found the guys who organized his visit, and I found their center in Moscow, and I came to the practice.
Wow.
And Tibetan Buddhist practices are very weird because they are all about, you know, working with non-dual state of mind.
Yep.
And you will take the most disgusting things and meditate on them, put your focus and see this compassion and love. Basically learn how to see through the bullshit. You know?
Yeah.
And I didn't understood anything, and that was so difficult. They have all these mudras and rituals. And I was just, okay, I just, you know, I trust what happened with me. I will just do that. I guess then I will figure out. And, you know, to put it simply, and what is my values right now is to help people really understand that you are able to learn how to be loving, how to be compassionate. This is a skill.
Yes.
And this is something what can go through the bullshit and heal the biggest traumas,
Yes.
which you think you already claim, like, okay, it's here, you know, like it was for me. I hate him and I'm fine with it, you know?
Yeah. As you were telling it, I knew that there was going to be something profoundly awakening that you were going to be sharing about it, because you're right that the contact with the highest consciousness that is trained in the planetary mystic traditions will in fact butterfly effect tremendous wisdom onto the other, which is then carried with them wherever they go, and then they begin seeing at a higher level of perception everything around them, to the degree that you were describing your experience with your stepfather being something where vast majority, 90+% of people fall into the same trap over and over and over again, but that you saw through that to the infinite love and compassion.
And I should add that he quit drinking right away.
Oh.
We never had an arguments again, you know?
Yeah.
That's not just, you know,
Holy
that
wow.
was this.
It wasn't just a
love.
hug and
Yeah,
a
there was
love.
just a hug and everything is get
Quit
back.
drinking.
Yes.
And never had another argument with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it right there. That's it. So it's a little bit, there are many people that choose to continue arguing with me when I tell them that please stop being hubristic. You are overly self-confident. You do not have enough humility because you are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, and you continue insisting that the planetary, spiritual, mystic traditions that are thousands of years old have no wisdom to teach you. And you keep doing it over and over again. This is a perfect example of the wisdom that the planetary mystic traditions have. It's a perfect surgical example. One of the enlightened sages pass along a tremendous amount of wisdom, which then cascades an insane butterfly effect in a family that ends trauma and that ends suffering, and that butterfly effects more happiness, more peace, more joy, more bliss, more truth. And that in itself is plenty of evidence, along with all of the other scenarios that are just like this yummy one that you share, for people to become less hubristic, more humble in acknowledging the fact that there is something very, very valid and very important and very perennial about the planetary spiritual mystic traditions.
You know, I think as Buddha said, you don't have to take it as a belief. I think just to be able to feel the space and to be in the presence of certain people and to see how your mind changes, how even the flow of your thoughts changes is important.
Yes.
You just can try and feel it, you know. And I experienced it so many times, and I was blessed with my teachers, where you truly can feel how you change. And in Tibetan Buddhism, there is this understanding of transmission. Yeah. They say that you can. There is a technique for a practice, but there is also the transmission where you can feel the essence of practice from the teacher. That's why these lineages exist, where from teacher to student, from heart to heart, you're receiving the truth and not losing anything, not adding anything, but just clearly continuing the flow.
That's right. Very eloquently said. And then as that goes down the lineage, we ourselves become stewards of the eradication of suffering and the bliss, joy, peace, compassion, and true nature of consciousness and reality that we then go on to lovingly pass along more and more with everything that we do and everything that we touch, every person that we engage with. So it's gorgeous. I love it. I love it. We went through some of the stories so far. Are there other ones that you think from this portion of your experience that you think are important to share? Maybe it would be nice to maybe reference how you've been doing with Maya at this time, right? Because you're becoming, I mean, all the way up to this picture here, Maya's like pretty much 8 or so years old or something. And so that's kind of a big chunk of time. So like, how was that, I guess, process also with raising Maya along the way?
I'm blessed with my child. I'm truly blessed with my child, and from how I was raised, and I had all these ideas which sounded really crazy to my mom, and my mom and my grandmother who was raised me, they was very structure minded, and they expressed their love and care to me by keeping me grounded. And whatever I would say, oh, I want to go travel, I want to do that, my mom would say, no, you have to go to college, you have to learn how to, I remember this phrase she used to tell me when I was a kid, you have to learn how to play violin, and at least you will always have some money for food. Like you can play, she would say, you can play in the underground, and you can have some money, whatever happened with you, your hands are here. And, just like this thinking from fear and trying to keep me on a certain structure which they thought was safe for me, which will keep me safe, and which was so like a prison for me, emotionally and energetically. And I think that's why I chose to raise my child absolutely opposite way. And it's not easy sometimes, because I showed you she's a skateboarder. She loves to skate. Yeah, you can show her Instagram probably with a video.
Yeah, we will. Trust me, I love these so much. All right, so let's see here. So we're on. All right, we're on. This is Liana's Instagram. You can find the link in the bio below. So go and visit it. It's really on point, and she has the link to Maya's Instagram right there at the top in the bio, and then we'll click through that. And then here's Maya's, where it says "Don't hate, go skate" in the bio. So that should be enough for you to realize. I love this. This is such a good picture of it's such a strong one. It's such a good one.
Yeah, I have another gray hair when I go to skate park with her. That was a really interesting story when she first time came to United States, and she has this story in one of her posts. I think you read when we were going through her Instagram. We were passing by homeless people on the skateboards, and Maya never seen a skateboard before, and she asked me, "Hey mom, what is this thing?" And I said, "This is a skateboard," and she asked if I can get her one. So straight from airport, we went to Venice Beach, and I got her penny board. This is kind of kids' colorful board. You can't go. That she painted on some stranger T-shirt. Her logo.
It's a good story. It's it's right here on the. Yeah, let's.
And she started to skate, and she was falling. She was bleeding. She was bleeding from all over the places every day, and getting back to skate park. So even local guys, local skateboarders who are sometimes annoyed by kids in the skate park who is very slow and just take space and not really skate. I think they started to respect her, and they would start to show her tricks, and she got sponsored, I think, after the first year of skating, I guess, by Abercrombie and Fitch. Yeah, that's here.
Yeah.
And with Maya, I just truly believe that kids still have access to the bigger picture and higher consciousness till the moment when society and family will put their labels and limitations. So I try to raise her through just giving her space to notice things, to explore things, and to to make her own mind about things, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to tell her what is good and what is bad, but I'm more trying to ask what does she thinks. And you know, that's very interesting because she has very strong sense of what's right and what's wrong. Yeah. She has very strong sense of a truth.
Yes.
And she really can recognize it. I remember that was one of my friend, he told me this phrase, which I still remember. He said, you know how to recognize truth, how separate truth from lie? And I asked how, and he said, just never lie. And when you're never lying, the lies become some, different energy, and you can sense it. Yes. And I think that's what's happening with Maya. She has really, really great understanding what is right and what is wrong, and she's very passionate about, saving planet, helping animals. Recently she turned to veganism, and I didn't push her to do that in any way, and either opposite. I tried to ask her if she's sure, if she feels it's right. And she made this decision, and she tried to eat vegan food right now. Yeah, because she's really care about environment. And yeah, I think I want to share her recent answer on one of the questions. And we really sometimes just, I'm not seeing her as, little kid who don't know anything. Like, I see absolutely opposite. I'm learning from her. I'm constantly asking what she feels about things. There was this very interesting situation when we was in, I think it was in the Beverly Hills, She has a really great sense of just space around her. And we was doing some things, and she got really hungry. And we didn't have a car at the moment, and I was just trying to find in the Google the closest place to eat, the closest restaurant or cafe. And we walked to this, and there was a beautiful place. Like, you see there's, like roses, furniture, everything is beautiful, great, expensive restaurant. And we sit there, and she's like, Mom, I don't feel, I don't want to eat here. Like, how conscious is this for a kid? I think she was 7 or 8 years old at the moment, who's actually hungry say, I don't really feel about this space. I don't really like the energy of this place. We should leave. And I said, sure, Maya, okay, if you can wait, I'll pick another place and we can go to a different place. And we're leaving the place, and the fight starts.
There's a fight that
there is
started
there is a guy who started fighting.
Yeah.
And
wow, as you were leaving. There you go. Wow.
And I totally trust her, I really do. And I constantly tell her about how talented she is, and I try to never judge her. And it's very opposite of from how I was raised, in this traditional schooling system. And yeah, she will come up with some incredible wisdom, which I just share with you, and I think I want to share with everyone. And in one of the conversations, she was asking me about God, and she is like, oh, okay, so how everything is here, how everything is worked. And I catched myself on trying to explain something from a Buddhist philosophical books about how the nature of consciousness is. And then I was like, whoa, stop. I should let her not taking my thing, but being able to think herself.
Yes.
And I just try to give her the question in the way of the kind of game, and just like imagination game. And I said, what if you would be the creator? How you would create the world?
Yeah.
And she was thinking for a second and tells that, I would create light from the love I have to this world. I would put it to my heart, and make it shine in all the direction, and every piece of this light would become a soul, independent soul, but always stay connected with me, even they have this long traveling to somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
that's what she said.
At age 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was recently.
That's what's up.
That's what's up.
That's what's up.
That's what's up.
Stories of enlightened children. I love it. This is the natural state, I would say, of children, is what you're describing, and that the economic machinery and non-enlightened parents usually beat the shit out of these states of play, curiosity, enlightenment out of children. The economic machinery, parents stressing and struggling in that big soup monopoly board. So it requires parenting where, as Maria Montessori says, you follow the child. And in this case, you really just let the child be themselves and you catalyze the child's interests. Mom, skateboards look really interesting. No idea what that is. Let's play with it. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's do it. It happens again with the trust of, you're right, at a level of awareness when a child's 7, 8 years old, to be able to say something like, and they're hungry, which they want the one marshmallow. They want the one gratification marshmallow. But to be so tapped into an awareness of an environment that maybe even you weren't registering so much what they were. Mm-hmm. And to surrender yourself to the wisdom of a 7 or 8 year old is something that a lot of parents don't have the humility to do. And so to agree to leave and to see the child make a decision for 2 marshmallows because there's probably something that might be happening that's being sensed, that then you see the fight break out as you leave. And a parent must catalyze states of awakening in their child. It's mandatory. You have no other option but to do this, because if you don't do this, you are going to create a significant amount of unneeded suffering and trauma in their life and your life, because you chose to do things that were pressing them in directions that you stopped. You stopped your familial process of doing that to you. And what you're doing, and science has validated this through epigenetics, is you're stopping your familial traumatic pathologies, and you're now passing along to Maya a new, fresh set of non-pathological DNA methylation and other epigenetics that then enable her to actualize her gifts in unique ways that you weren't completely able to, and especially your parents and their parents and their parents weren't able to. And how is she going to be as a mother? There you go. That's kind of the insight that we want to walk down as more enlightened parents. You had the opportunity in this process of inquiry of what God is to be able to say something that came from what you had previously learned, right? Here's my concepts and my schemas, and I'm going to put them into you because I'm right. And to choose to be a higher level, in a sense, teacher, like your teachers do to you, like you do to your child, where you provide an inquisitive question for them to follow down a path of their own inquiry, their own unique ways of expressing that beautiful thing that Maya said. I don't know other 7, 8-year-olds that know how to say things like they're that loving light radiating in every direction from the heart, that then every single soul is its own unique individual but is connected to that point. That's a gorgeous understanding. And I don't think about this. How many adults say something like that? There you go. There you go. That should be enough for people to realize that if you don't even have a social fabric of adults that say things as wise as that, then how does all of a sudden an 8-year-old produce thoughts like that? Well, maybe we should follow some more of these principles that we're discussing, and maybe we can have a more enlightened children and adults that are architecting a future that's more inclusive, that's more bright, that flowers everyone's unique gifts, that takes solid care of our planet and solid care of each other along the journey, that gets us to the beautiful Star Trek future of abundance that we all want to prosper in. So these are the Star Trek architects, in my opinion, very clearly, extremely clearly. I don't even need a second thought of questioning that. Not at all. This is the generation Alpha that I believe, that's born from 2010 to 2025. I believe that kids like Maya are the very, very clear leaders, the ones that are most in capacity, given their lineage, given the wisdoms of their parents, given things like this, that enable them to be those architects of that Star Trek future, that enable them to channel the most divine, the highest, through them. So we'll see. I mean, this is something interesting that I mentioned to you before we started. Could be a lot of fun to have Maya on the show. Could be a lot of fun. Maybe it's something that we can vibe on and see what happens. I love stuff like that. It's super fun.
It will be fun for sure.
Yeah. What podcasts sit down with, at the time, maybe she'll be 9 possibly by that time, but what podcasts get to sit down with 9-year-olds that have more awakened states of being and share that with the world? And like, what would that do to a 40-year-old, even a 30-year-old adult that is sitting there in some constrained being watching a 9-year-old so blissfully expressing themselves? That's the kind of stuff that could maybe be like, why am I so constrained, and why am I so not like that? Where did my ability to be like that go? And then that's when maybe children, maybe these sort of light architects that we're talking about, maybe they're the ones that can penetrate the hearts of the adult level consciousness. So
again, it's, takes just one question. When you try to make your kid do something or be a certain way, just ask yourself at this moment, like, why am I thinking it's right? Where does it come from? As we was talking, that few questions will bring you to compassion. Sometimes this simple question will bring you to the habit, and just to the habit which you used to experience in your childhood, and which just repeating unconsciously. And you don't ask yourself, you just following because it's right. Like, why is it right? And I find here the meditation as the greatest tool for that. So you're starting to be able to noticing these patterns. And for me, it was my mom. She's extremely, she thinks about herself. Her picture of herself is a very reliable person. And the worst thing for her, if she's not, if someone's expectations is not approved, from her side. So she was, all my childhood, she always tried to be on time everywhere. And she would start to make me be in a hurry, like we need to go somewhere in an hour, let's say. An hour before or 2 hours before, she would like, we're getting late, we're getting late, we're getting late. And it made me feel so much panic, and I just freezed. My reaction was freezed. I first started to panicking and try to, get my things together to be able to leave. And I had so much anxiety, I just couldn't do anything, and I just freezed. And I found myself at a certain point do the same thing to Maya. Not in this extreme way, but something like, hey Maya, come on.
Yeah.
And then it was like, wait, I kind of keep sensing this similar,
Yes.
it comes in a different words sometimes, but energy is similar.
Yes.
And I just started to stop myself. And I feel that I'm teaching now kids meditation, and that's my biggest passion right now, about teaching mindfulness kids and to show them this gap between stress and reaction, and then that you usually can choose. Yeah. And that's such a simple tools, it's over here. Just start asking yourself, start meditating, and just noticing what's happening within you, around you.
Yeah.
That's so simple, and that's so life-changing.
The pause between the stimulus and the
stimulus, right?
And the reaction is where so much of our power is reclaimed. And the same way that we were mentioning that after 3 seconds of focus, that the monkey mind races off and ruminates for a minute in some thought, is actually very applicable to this pause, to this time between the stimulus and the response. All of our power is reclaimed there, and the more that you train your ability to do something like be able to focus on your respiration for an extended period of time, or focus on that meditative or mindfulness practice for an extended period of time, the more that you train yourself and re-baseline yourself to be able to have a longer pause between the stimulus and the response. And when that happens, then you are sovereign.
And that's where you tap into your intuition.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's unpack this. Let's jump into the intuition. So, what do you mean by that?
Intuition is seeing the right timing for right move, I think, which is very difficult now and nowadays, where there is so many, social media and just labels about what are you supposed to do, how you're supposed to do that, and you just reacting on the stimulus without actually consciously choosing on which stimulus I truly should react. And for me, the intuition where you go through this white noise and you truly feel, because we're here still for a reason in these physical bodies, and you have to accomplish something, you have to do some right moves. But otherwise, by reacting on each stimulus, you just create new karma, and it's just like a big snowball. It's getting bigger and bigger, and you're stressed out, you don't have time,
Yeah.
That's why I told you, for me, is intuition goes with meditation. It goes together. And during my lifetime, I would experience sometimes these moments of intuition and intuitive insight, which I explained after, or opposite, I would have insight during the practices, during going on the retreats, and like clearing out all this noise, and bullshit, and deeper and deeper and deeper. And you see, that's what that's how our communication tonight starts with Brandon, right? And the master of sound, that's how I will remember him. The master of sound. And remember, we were talking about that everyone can share this truth of nature, of consciousness, through their gifts, through creativity. And for me, I had this deeper experience where I can bring this deeper state of mind through my voice, through singing, through talking, And I feel like when you become connected with yourself during this white noise, you find your intuition and your authentic way to express yourself and to bring this truth to this world, which transforms you and people around you. And you'll never be confused about that. You're never confused about that. Like, you literally start to feel how these habits and patterns, which are, sometimes feel so solid, as it was with my stepfather. I hate him. That's it. That's very solid concept. But here is like, it's melting through this, through this power of love, and you can express it. Maybe you can draw, maybe you can sing, maybe you can move, maybe you can guide a podcast and ask people in the way you ask and bring it, like right here.
Yes. The right action at the right time.
I like this example, which actually my Rinpoche gives, and he said about this loving presence. And, it's also, I believe that this is a skill. As much as you go to this space and as you bring your talent, as you feel this truth and this nature of consciousness, as more you become, it's more familiar it's become. The translation of the word meditation is make something familiar. You make this familiar, right? And you start to share it with the world. And for people like my Rinpoche, who live in this state of mind, who live in the nature of mind, which is love and compassion, who is always there, and it doesn't matter what externally happened. And he had this metaphor of when you are next to the people like that, and you're able to touch their loving conscious, it's your mind. And what is the difference between your mind and Buddha mind? Your mind is like a cube of ice, and the Buddha mind is of water. And when you're connect with loving, compassionate people, it's the same like as they breathing warm air to this ice, and you kind of have this sense of like how it can be, and it can clean out some karma,
That's right. I like that analogy a lot. Strong one. A lot of us feel that analogy with, as we become better at that pause between the stimulus and the response, when we gain that power, we gain that sovereignty, we gain that intuitive capacity that you speak of, that right action at that right time, everything slows down. Everything slows down. We become ninjas. We become Jedis. While we can very clearly see the essence of what it's like to not have that pause in others. And our ability to breathe the loving, compassionate, warm air onto the ice of those in the circumstances is that butterfly effect of that God consciousness. It's just, it's only so much that we can do to share these types of brilliant stories and experiences and profound perennial spiritual mystic traditions. People must actually take initiative themselves to explore the truth of this. And I wish for more people to be able to explore this, because I know that will solve the vast majority of our ethical and moral dilemmas on the planet. It will ensure that the Sustainable Development Goals get architected very well, and it will make sure that the young ones like Maya and the ones beyond her have a super epic, massive, abundant Star Trek playground for them to be able to express their creative gifts in. So I want to pass that on to the 7th generation. I don't want to pass along the pathologies that we have today.
And honestly, you don't even have to help them. Just let them be who they are, you know?
Just be that warm air that is breathed everywhere you go, and you will just naturally melt ice cubes with your love, compassion, bliss, joy, peace. I like how Rupert Spira says, imperturbable peace and causeless joy. I want to ask a question about intuition. A lot of this resonates with what Lao Tzu was teaching as well about Wu Wei, the idea of effortless action. And so the more that you tap into that Tao, that God, that intuition, that right action at the right time, it becomes an effortless process. My feeling around that is that is an absolute beautiful truth. And at the same time, I have sort of an interesting way of perceiving how other people have behaved in a way that they claim that they're following an intuition, but the intuition makes absolutely no logical sense. Zero. And I'm not saying that I don't even want to separate logic and intuition. I don't even want to separate the concepts.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep everything as one whole. But it's very clear to me that there are circumstances where people will behave in a very kairos fashion, where there will be some sort of an intuitive lightning bolt of sorts that says that maybe I should go and, I'll give you an example of, maybe I should drive my car 10 hours to some location where I think there is a person that is having some sort of a event that I should attend, but this person is holding it very exclusively. I don't even know the location of the event. I'm only going to show up there 5 hours after the event has actually ended in the middle of the morning. And so I'm still going to go because intuition's telling me to. How do you respond to something like that?
Mm-hmm. I think that's what we was talking about, the middle path. You know, there is definitely a middle path, and you're not going to this extreme type of things. Even from my stories, it was I guess it's pretty extreme to hear these things for people. I'm not saying that everyone have to do these things, but just it comes to simply to meditation and stillness at least 15 minutes per day, and just to calming your mind, not trusting your thoughts, and trying to find some space between the tendency of your mind to cling to things. Let me explain to you in the way of I'm learning now handstand. Right?
Yeah,
handstand.
How to do a handstand?
Yeah.
You really? Are you doing it against the wall right now?
Yes. Sure, I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's the I can only do it against the wall. I can't.
Yes.
But it's really kind of decompressing for the back, and it's kind of nice at times.
So the thing is, while I'm doing it, I've noticed that my mind tried to find familiar feelings in my body. How to do that, but I never did it before.
That's right.
That will be a new feeling.
That's right.
You're
training the muscle. Yeah, that's right.
Intuition is somewhere, you know. It's like beyond the things you know. It's beyond the things you know. There is this beautiful application which I will share with you. I totally forgot the name of the guy who had this amazing TED talk, who was working in FBI for years, and he talks about the psychic abilities and how to go to this intuitive space. And he has this application where basically four, how do you call this shape?
The square?
Square, yeah.
Square. Okay.
So there is 4 squares, and under one of this square, there will be a picture. And you have to feel intuitively where the picture is. That's so simple, and that's so interesting. I think you have like 28 tries. And also, like you starting to do these things, and you're like, oh, I feel that I get it. And the moment when you think that you feel that you get it, you losing it,
Interesting.
And it's about intuition. I think that sure, it can appear in a certain moments of life, and from my experience, you will never confuse it. You will never confuse this truth with something else.
Okay.
But at the same time, to consciously develop intuition, I think it takes time and effort. You can't, if you're not able to, as you said, focus for a minute, and not let your mind run to the random thoughts, I'm not sure that you'll be able to be truly connected with your intuition and to hear what is intuition, and separate it from the bullshit in your monkey mind.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know if it was a response.
Spot on. So as though one's ability to become sovereign with their consciousness to the degree at which they are able to focus and they are not in rumination of monkey mind, that enables them to hone in on intuition more effectively. So that's the pairing of the intuition and the meditation on a more close level. And then I liked your immediate response of middle path. I think that's fair. I feel like that's definitely been extremely true for me, especially given Chapter 7, the sorting algorithm, where you drain the dirty bathwater and you take the baby and you merge them together. That is middle path. So it seems like it's a good way for people to be, is where they see that more clearly, to where there's where that does becomes something that is very central, and at the same time that the more that they work on that muscle of the intuition, the more they work on the muscle of meditation and intuition, the more that everything aligns. Everything just aligns. I'm following, totally following. And you say it's, 5, 10, 15 minutes a day. And my recommendation is to, there's so many different combinations of, like we said, there's so many different items on the buffet to try and pick from and merge, and you got to go all the way to water and all of this type of stuff. But there's nothing right now that is as profound, in my opinion, as the Advaita Vedanta direct path.
I had so many jokes about Advaita Vedanta culture.
Wait,
so I'll try to
go
I'll
for
remember
it.
one.
Yeah,
I'll give you. I'll give you one. But just explanation of so in Tibetan Buddhism we call it like crazy wisdom. When you do all kinds of stuff. So, man, I try to translate it from Russian. There is one of my friend who tried to avoid argument in a chat in a Facebook by saying like by creating from the word Advaita, make it how to say, like transform it. It sounds in Russian like transform it like by like adviting everyone in this chat. Like I'm adviting everyone in this chat. Yeah, but yes.
There are definitely aspects to other perennial spiritual mystic traditions that are also similar to the direct path of Advaita Vedanta. And even there are tastes of what we are describing in the Greek philosophical traditions and in many other just planetary wisdoms, where there is basically that same teacher that we were describing earlier that is constantly anchored in the warm breath, that there is a transmission that's happening from that warm breath. And that transmission is in the form of not only that loving, compassionate presence, but the warm breath is also transmitted through question that enables the conscious agent to inquire into the nature of their awareness and reality. And that is, in essence, the direct path, because as soon as that conscious agent begins flipping the direction of their arrow from everything being external, outward, and they do the Ouroboros, where it goes inward onto the subject investigating itself, which we've absolutely atrophied that muscle in modernity. That process, catalyzed by these styles of perennial spiritual philosophy, warm breath, direct path, it's exactly the trigger that's needed in the modern society we live in. They're not going to go on a 10-day meditation retreat. They want to look at Instagram and TikTok. This is the world, the economic machinery. Make money, 9 to 5, buy a purse, do your thing, buy a new car, impress a girl, get married, have kids, repeat, nonstop.
I love that you brought it up, and it's actually, I'm thinking that how how far sometimes the modern world is from this conscious space. Even on the Buddhist retreats, Rinpoches and teachers, because the retreats, you are usually going through some stages. You first face with your complicated emotions and this like very strong duality of your own mind, and then usually in the end there is this feeling of bliss, of love. And even for the people who are constantly go for these retreats, still teachers would say all the time, it's the nature of your own mind. Don't, and people will still like fall in love, after the retreat, in the way of, like I found my love, or just like putting it somewhere.
Yes.
And teachers would constantly say, like, hey, just meditate on this state, meditate on this state. This is you. This is your. This is not someone, around, or some, how Dalai Lama said, the teacher is not a piece of cake which you can bite from,
there you go. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. And as Leo Tolstoy said, the kingdom of God is within you. The perennial spiritual traditions say that exact same thing. So if we inspire through our show, through all of the different memes that we communicate, memetics, cultural information transfer, if we leverage our abilities here in Hollywood, in the memetic capital of the planet, to be able to shoot out, like within our idea space, these animated series and memes that catalyze that direct path style awakening to millions of people, that is a really good way to butterfly effect the awakening.
I think there is like I want to say there's actually like really pretty simple steps. So you meditate, you literally clear your mind as you clear your room. You're in tuning with your intuition. You find your gift and share it with the world.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. I like the cleaning out the mind analogy to cleaning the room. It's a really strong one. We typically think that it's not that much affecting us having a bit of a mess around our living quarters. The more aware you become, the more you realize that that little mess in the living quarters of the mind is exactly what inhibits the pause. It's exactly what inhibits the love and compassion. And so it must undergo the process of a surgical, deep-rooted investigation and eradication of suffering, increase the length of that pause, increase the amount of love and compassion. It has to go under that process. The realization of the conscious agent, understanding the nature of its own awareness. So it must, and I think that we can spread memes most effectively here in Los Angeles. I feel it, I know it, it's in my heart, it's musical. There's already been so many powerful epic.
It's artistic. It's so artistic.
It is.
You know, like Hitler could become an artist. You know, there was this story that he wanted to become a painter, and somebody like really hurt his feelings in a school and said that you will never become an artist. So, you know, that could be such a different scenario.
You know, that Archduke Franz Ferdinand that was assassinated, that catalyzed the millions and millions of deaths of World War I. 15 or so million. That one sort of decision that Butterfly affected. And if that story about Hitler becoming an artist and having that artist be just squelched causes the massive, I believe the number's approximately 75 million, including civilians, something egregious, the total number of World War II deaths, that we're really beginning to play with fire. If one incident can lead to the death of millions of people, where consciousness, rather than being able to investigate itself and express itself artistically, is pressure cooked into the economic machinery and ends up cascading some sort of drastic malevolence. I also want to say that that's it serves us, and it's crazy to see that, because it's hard to see tens of millions of deaths as something that serves us. It's crazy to even say that, but it does. As in, we're wiser. We're wiser, but we're also playing with fire. So there's a lot more epic subjects to discuss. We unpacked a lot. That was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. That was so much. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I totally lost the sense of time. I don't
Me
know what
too.
time it is. Like,
Me
no,
too.
no idea.
I was just focused on God happening right here. And I was just like, this is perfect. Everything's perfect. Everything's like an expression of the most beautiful artistic flowering of creativity. And it's just like, yum, 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 yum.
Thank you. You let it happen this way. I was worried a little bit because of my I still have this language barrier, you know, and I moved here 3 years ago, and I just learned American English, and there are sometimes it's getting difficult for me to explain such a thing, especially as consciousness. And with you it was so easy, you know, because you create this very safe space and you really embody what you talk about, and in your presence it's very easy to, you know, to put these things into words, even I don't have a huge vocabulary. So yeah, thank you.
That made me feel very warm, very loved, very registered, very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's so nice to be able to feel that, be seen like that. You crushed it. It was no language issue whatsoever. Your explanations of your journey and your profound wisdoms landed in my heart really deeply. And hopefully in other people's as well. I think so. Yeah. What a cool story you have. Remember when you first messaged it over to me, I was like, oh my God. This is so cool. What an epic story. Well, only round 1 of unpacking it. There's so much more.
This is round
This
one.
is round 1. This is what you sign
Do you know
yourself up
Matryoshka?
for.
Do you know the
The
Russian doll
Matryoshka dolls, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's round 2, round 3, round 4, round infinity. How's this happening? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is what guests sign up for and that's why the recommendation engine works the way it does, because the experience of the guest is one of which you describe, which makes it quite easy for the guest to be like, that was epic, let's get other epic people on here and let's catalyze that awakening. So that's what kind of a container we aim to make on the program. And it absolutely has to come from an interviewer that themselves is a truly Gnostic being. They must have the knowledge anchored inside of them. Truly. And I'm still on my journey, but I can absolutely tell that the spiritual fire within me is so damn bright. It's so damn bright. And so that's what enables the relationship to happen between the other profound conscious agent with their fire, with their flower essence, smell, the aroma to fully be released. Because I'm acting as with my little spray bottle of loving water into flowers, just like and just blossoming. So you share so much with me, I just sponge it up. I become more enriched in the process. The audience becomes more enriched. Every guest does that process to us. It's just this beautiful process.
And I really love what you said earlier about, I feel like you don't really sometimes need to have some extreme experience, as you said, this just happened in the kitchen.
Yes.
I was just cooking food,
Right.
and you can really, can see the God in the eyes of other person.
Yes.
There is just like you melting these labels, your perceptions about how it's supposed to be, how this person is supposed to be, given this melting warm air, and here it is.
Yes.
Magic happen. You don't even have to go to ashram.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to.
But sometimes you need to as well. Yes, that's right. That's right. The Sufi mystics had their beautiful saying, everywhere you look, you see the face of God. I always recommend Chapter 8, High Level Perception, the magic trick. Contemplate your source. Contemplate your awareness. The more you do that, the more you realize the oneness of all existence, everything coming from the same source. And when you do that, you begin thinking more holistically. And when you begin thinking from the perspective of the whole, and then you simultaneously channel that into your own artistic individuation, that is God consciousness. That's all I have to say. That's it. I have another question for you, actually, the silly ones.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, the silly one is, do you shower in the morning or at night?
Both.
You showered both times?
Mm-hmm.
Twice a day?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Every day?
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you? Yeah, that's a new response.
Unexpected.
It's a new response. What can I say? It's a new response on the show. We haven't had that twice a day yet. I haven't had that yet. How about, are you a 5-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute kind of shower person? How long are your showers?
5 minutes.
Oh, this is why. You
Yeah,
take
this
2
is why.
showers, 5 minutes each. Boom, boom. Yeah, I see. Boom, boom. Yeah. So
I'm wondering where is this investigation?
yeah, the investigate.
Blitz,
There's
you know,
many.
but-
There's many
okay.
points in this investigation. They're all very silly and important. I promise. They're super important points. Do you shampoo, conditioner, and body wash? Soap? Do you use a loofah? How do you? No.
No, I don't use any of those. I mean, I use shampoo and I use conditioner.
And that's it.
Yes.
That's it. Okay. Do you have shower thoughts?
What is that?
Shower thoughts is when you're in the shower and you have some interesting insights.
In a shower.
You're
Shower
5 minutes in there, which is
thoughts.
very fast. I don't know if you have much time for your shower thoughts. Some people spend like half an hour in there and have a lot of insight.
Yeah, I think I do sometimes.
What are your insights that you have in there?
Mostly about the upcoming day. I'm thinking if it's it's either about upcoming day, about how to structure it better. I have ideas about how I have to structure it in a better way.
Yeah.
And after, in the end of the day, the thought is how I could do it better next time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. When you go to bed, you're at the end of the day. If you are wearing socks, how do you take your socks off?
I actually take socks off right when I come in the house.
Yeah. And how do you do it? Which
From here, like
wait. Okay, so you use your right hand
I
first.
either use. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I either use my right hand first, or either I do it with my legs. Don't use my
Okay,
hands.
so sometimes you just put your foot on one sock and take it off, and put your foot on the other sock and take it off.
Yes.
But sometimes you go one hand and then the other hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you flip them inside out, or do you keep them?
Yeah, I flip them
inside out?
Is it like was the feedback for a best questionary on these questions of yours?
No, they're just kind of like silly questions. Not yet. Maybe we'll get sometime the audience will get to make a decision and they'll be like, maybe add this silly question, take one out. Who knows? We'll rank these silly questions. When you sleep, do you sleep in pajamas? Do you sleep in...
I sleep naked.
Me too. Yeah. I sleep naked too. Yeah. Yeah. Why do you sleep naked?
Just feel more comfortable.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I feel more comfortable, more divine in the process.
I mean, I would just leave naked if I was
would live
able.
naked. Me too. Me
know?
too. Me too. That one deserves another high five. There's something weird about all of the clothing it's like an obsessive compulsive disorder with fear of being naked. And so then that fear of being naked just propagates everything that we do. And yeah. So anyway, there's a lot of more spiritual, metaphysical aspects to that. But now, do you sleep approximately 6, 8, how many hours do you sleep? 7.
7, 6 hours. Most of the time 6.
6, okay. Do you lucid dream? You do. When you lucid dream, do you normally plan in some sort of a meditation prior to bed, kind of where you want to dream, what you want to do? That's what you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do that, and actually I had this ability from my... I didn't develop it. It will be wrong thing to say. So my grandfather, he used to tell me from the early childhood that he can order a dream. And I think just this idea which he put in my head that you can order a dream, and I would just do it all the time. And
That's
I would
great.
fall asleep. I was like, okay, what I want to dream about.
That's
And
cool.
sometime it worked, sometime it didn't.
Yeah.
But now I would more being focus on a falling asleep in a loving state of mind, and again cleaning out all the like garbage if I have some after the day, you know, and just like let universe feel the details, you know, just stay in an open, compassionate state of mind. But I had few times, and that was very interesting because I have the experience before taking a refuge, Buddhist refuge,
Yeah.
and after.
Yep.
And that was a really big difference. And I feel like the Buddhist refuge for me and for my subconscious was the type of anchor. And, you know, all the Buddhist practice is about how to consciously die, you know, and you're practicing it when you're falling asleep because it's the similar thing, right?
Mhm.
So you learn how to
Yeah.
control your mind.
Yep.
And like in a Buddhist tradition, because of you put so much trust and love. I'm trying to explain rationally, if it sounds rationally. I don't know. You put so much love to your teacher. At the moment when you losing yourself in a dream and you feel scared, for example, or there is some object which scares you, the first thing, and as well as when you die, you remember your teacher.
Yeah.
And when you remember your teacher, it brings you more energy, more confidence.
Yes.
So you are able to control your mind more. You're not just running away from the fear.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember that I had this very vivid experience before taking the refuge and after. And there was one time when I was in a lucid dream, and you know this feeling when you know that you're sleeping and you are in your, like, you know that this physical body is right here in the bed, and there was this like really mean woman started to choke me.
Yep.
And the first thing I was like, okay, what do I do? I remember Rinpoche,
Yep.
and I remembered my teacher, and then I was like, okay, what else I remember? I remember that she is not something else, but she is my
Yes.
mind, and I can actually make her transform to whatever.
Yes.
And I make her transform into Tara, this Buddhist Tibetan goddess.
Yes.
And then I was like, whoa, okay, so what next do I do?
Yes.
I'll create some other Buddhas and, you know, just like amazing Buddhahood around me. And I would just like start to create this. And I remember this moment where I was able to create this reality very vividly.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where I was not able to let go and just to stay still. You know, I could feel still this tendency of mind, like not being able to totally relax and trust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was very interesting because it took me to my, let's say, like next step of my practice. Like I figured
Yep.
the tendency of my mind through lucid dreaming.
Yep. Yeah. There's a great place for practice in the dream world for these types of awakening wisdoms. Do you do a journal of your dreams?
Sometimes, not all the time.
Just based on how profound or interesting they are?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do too, yeah. What's your favorite food?
Grechka.
Griechka? Really?
I love grechka.
Seriously? That's buckwheat
Seriously.
for those that don't know.
Yeah, that's buckwheat. This honestly, that the first thing come to my mind. I don't have a favorite food.
Oh, you don't?
I don't have. I
Okay.
don't have favorite food. I just my mind just transform it into what if there will be one product which what if just one product would exist, which one you choose, you
And it
know,
would be
because
Grechka, yeah.
no, I
No?
yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
no,
it
it
will
would,
be?
yeah, it
Okay,
would be
okay.
Grechka. I just mean I don't have
Interesting.
a favorite food. No.
Yeah. Interesting. I like it a lot. Yeah. It's been passed down so much in lineage, so you kind of just pick it up and get used to it. Yeah. I want to also briefly check in about this. In terms of metaphysics, just the nature of reality, kind of why it exists. Do you have an idea at why it exists?
Why it exists? Because it wants to play this game, wants to enjoy it, wants to express love from experience I had, not my thoughts, but experience. It just wants to express love and creates different scenarios, making itself to believe in suffering and pain, to being able to express love to itself.
Interesting. Yeah, that metaphysics is an interesting one. It's one that we've played with for the last couple of years in different sorts of guests on the program have been sharing things similar to that. And it's been really interesting analyzing those because they resonate, they're fun. And then today, my intuitions around the nature of reality seem to be mostly around consciousness exploring infinity and it doing that eternally, and that this is just one exploration, this is one taste. You know, this may be chocolate, is the 4-limb, 2-eye, carbon-based DNA encoded creature on this exact planet orbiting the star. And that in order to get to the tastes of vanilla, strawberry, mango, all these other tastes, that we're about to enter into the metaverse, which is where we came from, which is that synthesis of artificial general intelligence and simulation theory and bio and neurotech, mixed realities, infinite designer realities that we go into and then we pop out exploring another 80-year experience of some sort of a conscious agent experience that enables consciousness to just continue exploring infinity, because you can never finish exploring something that's unbounded. So if that's more of something that can be investigated mathematically by us, it's exciting, because I like the stories of play and fun and exploration and playing with the illusion of separation and all of these things. They're very fun. I'm also simultaneously looking at something that is exciting to play with mathematically. So, if it's possible, it could be exciting.
You know this story about, I think it was Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, this Hindu story, when they was talking about who's cooler, you know, and they try to find a way. What was they doing? They were like trying to find the limits of universe, and the Shiva like would go in a infinite space, you know, like to the all of direction, and they couldn't find the beginning and the end.
There you go. Amen.
Amen.
Amen to that. Yeah. Like, man, conscious agents must expand their awareness to these truly infinite, eternal, cyclic, godlike states of being
Satchitananda
Satchitananda
Parabrahmam.
Parabrahman. That's right. That's right, baby. Existence, consciousness, bliss. I love it. Amen. I and my Father are one. John 10:30. Tattva Masi. You are that. We are that. Wahat al Wujud. The unity of all being existence from the Sufis. Diversity and oneness is the mathematics of the infinite. Sri Aurobindo, the Mother Mira Alfasa. All right. That's it. Boom. Good stuff. That's it. That's a wrap. I'm proud of us. That was awesome.
Wait, one more.
Boom. I love it. I love it. That was super awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's many more to come. We're only scratching the surface. We're only scratching the surface. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below also if you want to see Maya on the program.
Oh yeah.
We'd love to get some 9-year-old awakened consciousness to enter in the hearts of the 30-year-olds that are watching so they can realize what the infinite joy bliss looks like. Oh man. Hopefully we can do it. We'll explore. We'll see. Check out the links in the bio below, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Massively appreciate you. You have Liana's Insight app teacher profile. So she's got a bunch of online courses on there, and you can find it on the links in the bio below, but it's on the web or on the Insight Timer app as well. Check that out. Also, she has a bunch of other projects that she's currently on her Instagram page. You can go find those there. She's got Mindful Mom. She's trying to promulgate mindfulness in secular ways around the planet. She's got a Human Cosmos app. Super interesting stuff. Pure Zen Su is the most recent project. Short, simple tools to bring awareness to the present moment with love and compassion. So a lot of epic stuff to check out. Definitely follow her for more on that. Yeah, that's the essence. Go and build the future, manifest your dreams into the world, support the artists, the entrepreneurs, the spiritual leaders, the scientists, the engineers, those that are building the future. You can support us. All of Simulation's links are in the bio below. Support us, help us flourish. And that's it. Investigate your consciousness. Listen to your thoughts in the bio below. Keep in touch about these deeper states of meditation and intuition. Keep us posted. Big love. Good job. That was so fun. That was so fun. Much love. See you soon. Peace, guys.